would you do if you saw spaceships over Glasgow? Would you feel every aircraft, every camera?
I want to welcome everyone to the tutorial series for technical evaluations of earth retaining systems. We are going to discuss today the IDEA protocol and IDEA evaluations. This is a series of tutorials. Today is the protocol. We're going to give you an overview of what's available and what the processes are. Next presentation in September will be an example, and then the third presentation in the October timeframe will be incorporating IDEA into your review processes and activities. We are here joined by four of my colleagues, and I do want to point out that this tutorials are being brought to you by both the Geo-Institute and the Federal Highway Administration. So we do have Ryan Berg with us today. Ryan is a consultant with Berg Associates. Daniel Alzamora, Daniel's with the Federal Highway Resource Center. Jim Collin was with the Collin Group, as well as a member of the GI Board of Governors. And Silas Nichols is a principal engineer at the Federal Highway. So welcome to you all, and again, welcome to the participants. In general, I just wanted to give you an overview. Our job is to expand the understanding of IDEA. So you know what it is, you know how to use it, you've seen an example. And we will do that through a discussion of the protocol, through a discussion of examples, and to talk about how we review mechanically stabilize our systems. All the items that you hear today, next tutorial, the one after that, are contained in a Federal Highway publication, the protocol for IDEA, and this is available at the Geo-Institute website for download and review. So, what are we planning to do today? We're going to hear from Silas Nichols about the development of IDEA. Jim will talk about how the Geo-Institute is working with IDEA now, becoming the competent authority on IDEA evaluations. And then we'll hear about the overview from Ryan Berg and Jim Collin. We will have questions, and I do encourage you to put those questions within the chat. We'll have Daniel Alzamora curate those questions for us at the end, and please put those questions in as they come aboard. And then finally, I will come back at the end and wrap up and tell you about what we're planning to do on the next presentations. So thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Silas Nichols.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Let's get this up. I am Silas Nichols, and as mentioned, I'm the Principal Geotechnical Engineer at the Federal Highway Administration. I reside in Washington, D.C. And I guess I'll open this up by just taking just a few minutes to talk about FHWA's involvement in IDEA. You've already seen in a previous slide that Jeff just put up that the protocol developed for this was something that was actually developed by Federal Highway Administration. And it was developed. The idea came to us a long time ago, but we started development of this back in 2014 as the Innovations, Developments, Enhancements, and Advancements program, really to provide a different form for technical evaluations of earth retaining systems and components, and a structure for both warehousing and maintaining systems for management of the overall program. The system is now live. It went live last year. And the website to get to it is on the screen here. We'll take a look at it a little bit later with Jim Collin. IDEA was really developed here to replace the Highway Innovative Technology Evaluation Center, or HITEC. Most everybody is familiar with the old HITEC process. It was established back in 1994. And really was a pretty successful program early on. Its most significant contribution is that it was a participant in advancing mechanically stabilized Earth from what was an innovation at the time into what is now really a mature technology that's routinely used in highway applications. So, a good number of our owner agencies have used HITEC or some similar process in technical evaluations of earth retaining structures. And for all intents and purposes, performance was generally pretty good. In recent years, however, we've had some challenges with the program that we've needed to address, and that's what got us thinking about a replacement to HITEC. The challenges were that IDEA program was underfunded and poorly resourced. And so we really thought we needed to look at a different financial model for how to deliver the program. The duration of reviews was taking way too long. There were complaints from vendors and owners alike about the quality of the product. We found that for products that we had out there, there was misuse of reports by owners, designers, and suppliers. And quite honestly, the vision and the mission of the original high-tech program really wasn't valid anymore for an existing earth-retaining structures practice. And so we developed IDEA. And the point and what we tried to get to with IDEA was to try and recognize that MSE structures are really a mature technology. They are our most popular fill wall in highways, and it wasn't really worth it for us to think of it as something that people didn't understand anymore. The program is developed to address not only MSE structures, but earth-retaining structures, including such things as modular block gravity walls. The protocol that was developed for this was designed to be extremely flexible so that we could apply it to innovations in earth-retaining systems that we really hadn't thought about yet. So one of the things that we didn't want to be was handcuffed by a system that did not fit within what we thought the design methodology or the components or the materials of an earth-retaining system should look like, that we had the flexibility to evaluate that also. We also put in a process for handling updates for materials, components, connections to systems, construction methodologies, and put it in such a way that updates could be done in a much more streamlined process than the full reviews. So with that, the Federal Highway Administration and the Geo-Institute went essentially into partnership and administration of this program. It is administered through the Geo-Institute. However, the Federal Highway Administration provides financial support, some technical resources. We have technical liaisons that work with the Oversight Committee, and we are working with the program to help owner agencies both understand what IDEA is and work to help them implement it into use in state departments of transportation if they so choose. And so we're currently supplementing the IDEA program with additional state requirements to address some of the specific and local concerns that states might have that seem to be affecting either suppliers or states with respect to the minimum set of evaluation requirements in the IDEA program. And so if you went to the IDEA website, you'd find that there's already been one of these completed for the Minnesota DOT, and we're currently under contract to work with 15 additional states to start incorporating their additional requirements into the IDEA program. And so you can see those 15 states on the slide here. And the point is we're going to look to develop a framework through these first 15, 16 states, if you count Minnesota, that can be distributed to all state departments of transportation. After this first round, FHWA will continue to work with other states to try and get their systems uploaded, such that IDEA can be marketed as the technical evaluation program for earth-retaining structures. And hopefully be not seen just as an alternative to a state or an owner developing, maintaining, and funding their own local program or individual review structure. So with that, we expect to be done with that by the end of the calendar year and have those essentially over to the Geo-Institute for uploading sometime in late December, early January for states that are interested and looking at additional technical assistance from federal highways, or well, it doesn't even have to be a state, anybody that just wants to know more about this, you can contact either Daniel Alzamora in our resource center or myself here in headquarters. So that's all I had. And I will turn this over to Jim Collin to talk about the Geo-Institute role.
Thank you, Silas. Let's see. All right. So Silas set the stage for us very nicely. I want to talk just for a few minutes about the Geo-Institute and IDEA and our role in IDEA. When FHWA came to the Geo-Institute and asked us to partnership with them on IDEA. The Board of Governors, we asked ourselves, why should we take on this considerable initiative? And I think the answer to that question was obvious to us. One, we wanted to continue to build on our strong relationship with FHWA, which we've had now since the beginning of the Geo-Institute. We think that our relationship has just gotten stronger with time. We wanted this to be a self-funded project. Silas referred back to the high-tech evaluations. Those evaluations were managed by ASCE, not the Geo-Institute. But those evaluations took up to a year, and the cost for those evaluations was double to 3 times the evaluation cost that we have with IDEA. So again, we wanted to make sure it was self-funding, that we were not outlaying Geo-Institute funds to manage this. And thirdly, we wanted to make sure that it brought value to our membership, and we feel these evaluations certainly do that. The next step for the Geo-Institute was to establish an IDEA evaluation committee, a board-level committee that reports directly to the Board of Governors. That committee currently exists, and it consists of 10 earth-retaining structure subject matter experts and 6 DOT engineers. It's important, as with high-tech, that the evaluations are perceived as completely impartial evaluations, that the evaluators have no conflict of interest, and that we provide an unbiased report. And establishing the committee with 10 subject matter experts with lots of diversity within that group, we felt that we could, within that group, if there was a conflict of interest with any one consultant, we had a pool of consultants to take over that burden. So we believe with the setup of our committees that we have accomplished that. For new evaluations, so as Silas mentioned, the IDEA program is really set up for a mature technology, for MSE technology. And so the evaluations have been streamlined from the IDEA evaluations. But having said that, we've also set it up for innovations to earth retaining systems. So maybe a change in the corrosion resistance of a system or a new connection. Interestingly enough, the evaluations that we've completed so far, 2 or 4 basically evaluations that are new evaluations that were not done under high-tech. And our third has been an update of an evaluation. For every evaluation, we have a group of 4 consultants that do the evaluation. We have a lead consultant who does the heavy lifting, does the detailed evaluation of the system, with 3 additional subject matter experts that are there to provide review of the report and prepared by the lead consultant, and provide input to the lead consultant on any technical issues that may arise during the evaluation. The final report is, of course, reviewed by the entire evaluation committee and the system supplier. And the evaluation stages, we're going to hear later today, Ryan's going to talk a little bit about all the details, and then in our next seminar in September, we'll actually walk through 2 evaluations and kind of demonstrate how they've been prepared. We've set up this is for a new evaluation, a 4-phased evaluation program. It's been set up so that the fees for each phase are collected prior to that phase of an evaluation, so that the system supplier could opt out of an evaluation if they find that at some point they don't have enough information, or they just decide they don't want to continue. So that's been set up. The total cost of the evaluation for a new one is just under $36,000. And our estimated evaluation time is 3 months, which is considerably shorter than the high-tech evaluations. Now, that's just for the evaluation team's work. If there's time that the system supplier has to prepare and add additional information, that, of course, would be added on to that time. For update evaluations, the cost is approximately $10,000, and the time frame for that is 6 to 8 weeks. So just before I pass on to Ryan Berg, I want to open up our website. And if you go to the Geo-Institute website under special projects, we have the IDEA program. And if you click on that, you can see we have evaluation reports. There are 3 reports that are currently completed. And then we have an icon to look at additional approval requirements. The evaluation reports, and I think Ryan's going to talk in more detail about these, but they include a short summary report and then the entire submittal that was made by the system supplier. So with that, I'll turn it over to a more detailed discussion by Ryan Berg.
Thank you, Jim. And good day, everybody. So let's talk about this IDEA program and the technical evaluation of earth retention systems. I'm going to go into more detail on all of these areas that Jim and Silas just summarized a little bit of. So I'll back up and I'll talk about the goal and objectives of the IDEA program, the benefits derived by users and by wall system suppliers, the variety of earth retaining systems that we can deal with, and then talk about the evaluation protocols, processes, and reports, then move on to how these reports are used, and then talk a little bit more about these additional DOT requirements that are used to supplement the reports and what we can see from that. The overall goal of the IDEA program is to foster innovation with existing or proven earth retaining structures, is to encourage the development of new technologies or improvement of existing technologies, and it's also to improve the methods by which these technologies are delivered to projects in the ground. To achieve this goal, we look at 3 specific objectives. The first, as Silas mentioned, is to update and improve upon the prior high-tech evaluation protocol. And the improvements, as Jim mentioned, specifically are to provide a more timely and a more cost-effective process, but also a more transparent process, as we'll see when we talk about the reports that are being provided. Second objective is to develop guidance for the use of these IDEA reports and submittals by transportation agencies and by project owners. And finally, we've developed a set of guidance for administration and maintenance of these technical evaluation systems, including periodic review of the system reports. That's something that was lacking in the high-tech process. Well, let's back up and talk a little bit about how proprietary earth retaining systems are currently being evaluated. If you're an agency or owner, you have 3 options primarily to evaluate a new system that's submitted to your agency. First is to conduct an in-house review by using in-house staff. And any supplier that has submitted to a DOT will find that the timing on that review can vary considerably between agencies and is very dependent upon the staffing levels within that agency, the expertise within that agency, and priorities within that agency. So there should be some way to help the agencies utilize new systems, but not bog them down into long in-house reviews. Second option by agencies is to allow outside consultants to perform the review, and that may be through an approved list of reviewers that the state will accept. The third option, and the subject of our webinar today, is the use of IDEA reports, and we'll get into details on how these IDEA reports can be utilized by agencies to streamline and acceptance of new systems within their states. If you're a consulting engineer, designer, what options do you have for utilizing earth retaining structures? Similar to agencies, you can perform in-house reviews with your in-house staff and relying on in-house experience. You do have an option certainly of relying on an agency approved product list, depending upon what state you're currently engineering in. And likewise, you can use IDEA reports to pre-qualify or to sort out what sort of systems you may want to use on a project. So moving into idea evaluations and report, what benefits are derived from this? First of all, for agency owners, you're seeing consistent expert evaluations. You're in a consistent format, that high level of technical expertise in the evaluation. There is no cost to the agency or owner. The system supplier is bearing the full amount of cost of this review. If you're a consulting engineer, again, you're finding consistent expert evaluations and at no cost to the firm or your client. For the system suppliers themselves, again, this consistent expert evaluation is a large benefit for them. And it's a single cost evaluation that is widely accepted and used throughout the United States. So Jim talked about approximately a $39,000 cost to perform an idea evaluation. If a supplier was to go to each state, it may cost them $5,000 to $25,000 per state if they're going to have to hire an outside consultant to perform a review specifically for that state. So there's a great cost and time savings available to the earth retention system suppliers by using IDEA. Well, what do we talk about when we're saying earth retention structure systems? What do we mean by that? Well, it's a system that contains the following items that are system-specific elements. So that's material components, it's design methodologies, and typically it's also the specific project designs being supplied. It's system-specific construction procedures and system-specific quality assurance procedures to be utilized. So that's what we're talking about when it's an entire package or system. ERS, of course, again, it can refer to earth retaining structures or earth retaining system. If we talk about the types of systems that we typically utilize in our practices, they vary from rigid to semi-rigid gravity systems, prefabricated modular concrete gravity systems, the mechanically stabilized earth, MSE systems, anchored systems, other in situ reinforced soil systems, and stabilized type systems. Of these, many of them are generically designed by agencies or by consultants, but there are some that rely very heavily on proprietary systems. And those would be the prefabricated modular gravity systems and the MSE wall systems. So those are the ones that are most prone to have a proprietary package system that a single supplier is going to provide to a contractor. And these proprietary systems are our current focus within the IDEA program. So what protocols have been established for walls? 7 have currently been established by IDEA and they can be expanded. The current 7 protocols that are set up for evaluation of earth retaining systems include an MSE wall system with precast concrete panel facing and steel reinforcement, MSE system with precast concrete panel facing and geosynthetic reinforcement, MSE system with modular concrete block facing. These are the dry cast block facing and steel reinforcement. MSE systems with the modular block wall facing and geosynthetic reinforcement. MSE systems with steel mat facing and steel soil reinforcement. And another MSE system with steel mat facing and with extensible soil reinforcements. So that's 6 MSE systems. The 7th protocol is set up for gravity prefabricated concrete blocks. These are typically large wet cast concrete blocks that are being submitted for review. So these are the 7 established protocols. Again, IDEA is flexible, it can be expanded to add new systems depending upon needs of suppliers and on users' needs. Okay, so those are the systems that are currently being reviewed by IDEA. What does the vendor have to supply to initiate the project? In addition to the check, they need to supply the following information. We'll take a look at an example protocol. This one is for a MSE wall with concrete panel facing and steel reinforcement. So we have a checklist of what has to be submitted, and you'll notice on the left-hand side of this checklist is a specific numbering. And we're going to come back to that numbering system as we talk about reports. But let's focus here on what the supplier is submitting for review. First, it's the components of the earth retention system. It's the facing system, all of the information on that, the reinforcement information, the connection information between the panels and the soil reinforcement, and then other miscellaneous components such as bearing pads, filters, and so forth. So that's the first section of what they submit in the first section of the report. Secondly, they supply design information. So what sort of recommended design procedure is there for this system? Does it conform fully to AASHTO? Are there some modifications that are needed or exceptions that are utilized due to innovations or not? And then example designs are provided as part of the submittal. Next is construction, so detailed construction procedures for the system under review, including an installation guide or manual. And then we get into quality control, and it's quality control of both the materials, the manufacturing, and quality control of the constructed works. And then finally, we also ask for and receive some information on the history of the system, the performance of this system, and how large structures have been built, where have they been built, and so forth. And then last, we ask for any additional information that may be of interest for users of the system. So that's an example protocol for one type of system. And again, that's followed through by the supplier when they submit their system for review. In this numbering system we see on the left-hand side here, the supplier submits a detailed report, and the body of that report follows that numbering system. If they get down to some particular item and it's really not applicable to their system, they will still provide that number as part of the numbering system within the report, but just note that it's not applicable. And then when you get into the report appendices, which will be several hundred pages long, that same numbering system is used in the appendices. So what we're creating is a easy to use submittal that end users can take a look at, find information very readily, and it's a consistent type of format regardless of system or protocol used. Jim touched upon the evaluation process, a four-step process. So the initial first two steps are really making sure that all the information has been provided. We're ready to move forward, that we have a protocol that's applicable in step one, and then we'll move forward. In step two, the lead reviewer takes a cursory review of the submittal and really is looking into areas that, well, is it a full submittal? Are we missing something? Are there some obvious questions? And in that case, back to the applicant and time for the applicant to respond and to modify that submittal. Once that's provided, we go into 3, the detailed submittal review, and there the lead reviewer will go through all the information. They will call upon their review team of 3 additional engineers to look at specific items that they would like some second opinions on, and so forth. They will draft a report. That report will go back to the review team. They will take a look at the report and what parts of the submittal they want to take a look at, provide input, and the 4 of them, under the guidance of the lead reviewer, then will develop a final draft report to go back to the submitter, to the wall system supplier. There will be some conversations back and forth. The supplier is actually encouraged to modify their submittal to address any issues or questions. And this is a more direct process than the prior high-tech, in that there's more direct communication. We're not simply going back to a supplier and saying, we need more information on this item. we're going back and getting on the phone or on a meeting online here and talking about what the concerns are specifically, and we'll discuss with the applicant ideas on how that can be addressed within the report and the types of things we're looking for. So it's a more direct conversation, and we believe that's leading to a much better product in the end. The fourth step, after the series of back and forth between the reviewers and the applicant, is the completion of the final report. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we find in that final report. Well, Silas talked and Jim talked about we wanted to improve upon the prior process of high-tech. So what sort of reports did we get out of high-tech? Well, these are a couple example reports here I'm showing, and these are hard copy printed reports. So they only were available in hard copy form. They had to be ordered and shipped to someone who wanted a copy of the report. And there are summary reports. They're typically 30 to 40 pages long. So the reviewers took all of the large submittals from the system suppliers, distilled the information down, put it into a new format, a consistency of report format that was used within high-tech. And there were some appendices, but they're fairly minor appendices that were attached to these. So the information that's submitted by the supplier was not directly available, and the reports were hard copies. So they were not readily available, and they certainly were not updatable. The IDEA program, the report format, first of all, is something that's consistent, and it's available online, and it's available at no charge for users. So it's online, it can be revised and updated. We can track any revisions online, let people know if something has been updated. We can list what's been updated or revised if needed. And again, no charge for users. And the format itself is quite different. What you'll find is that the quote IDEA report is simply a few pages summarizing the findings of the review. Appended to those few pages is the entire submittal that the earth retaining system supplier has provided. And again, this is the final submittal that has gone through iterations during the review process, and both the system supplier is happy with what they have submitted, and we've fully discussed with the reviewers any outstanding issues. If there are outstanding issues or discrepancies, those would be summarized in these first few pages of the quote IDEA report. So Jim mentioned there are 3 reports completed to date on the website. If you go to the website and click on those reports, you'll see for the Vista Wall report, which is a panel-faced steel reinforced MSE wall system, you'll see that the IDEA report itself is only 6 pages long, and the appended to that is the full submittal from Vista Wall, which is over 1,000 pages long. So again, we're being fully transparent. In this 1,000-page attachment, the submittal, again, is following the numbering system of the protocol, so things are very easy to find. Likewise, it's all in a PDF format, so if you're looking for something specific, say on a corrosion or connection or something, you can do a word search and find that very quickly as well. The other 2 reports are for modular block-faced geosynthetic reinforced walls. The Anchor Diamond Pro report, the IDEA quote report, is 4 pages long with over 600 pages of the full submittal appended to it. The Keystone Compact 3 system report, the IDEA report summary is 5 pages long, and that has over 450 pages appended to it, which is, again, is the full submittal from Keystone. And again, these reports are readily available at the Geo-Institute website under Special Projects /IDEA. Again, so they're readily available and they are free to users. Okay, so we've gone through the review process, how the reports are prepared. So what do we do with these reports? Well, first of all, state agencies can create and maintain approved products list for earth retaining systems with these reports. So it'll help them sort out systems that come in and want to be approved in their states. And these approved product lists will be used by state agencies for in-house design, for consultant designs, for design builds, and for other contracting mechanisms within the transportation agency. We also see wide use of them in different states by local and county projects and maybe state aid projects, but something that the DOT does not have direct design involvement with. So a lot of local municipalities and counties can rely on the agency's APL list of the approved earth retention structure systems. These reports also can be used by design engineers when they're working on non-DOT structures. They can be used by owners and developers when they're evaluating what earth retention system to use on a particular development or project. All the users can easily go back to the website and see if there are any changes in the system that they've been supplied on a specific project versus what had been reviewed, or they can check to see if there's any update to the system since they had last approved it. Again, we currently have 7 protocols established, but certainly you should expect that new and innovative systems will be requesting reviews and that the number of protocols will be expanding as use of this IDEA program expands. Silas mentioned that in addition to the reports, you'll find on the website a summary of additional DOT system approval requirements. So some states may take the IDEA report and say, you got the IDEA report, we'll put you on the approved products list. Other states, for example, Minnesota, where I work, they want some additional information that's not contained directly in the IDEA report. So that list of information is provided on the IDEA website. So that's fully transparent to users and to system suppliers that they know that they will need to supplement their IDEA report with some little additional information if they're going to ask to be placed on an approved product list in Minnesota. As Silas mentioned, the Federal Highway is sponsoring a project right now where 15 additional state DOT supplemental requirements are being prepared, and those will be posted to the Geo-Institute website sometime late November or December, I anticipate. Well, to expand on this a little bit more, let's just take a look at the Minnesota requirements that are on the website. So they're just really short supplements of what's not containing the IDEA report that an agency may want. In this case, Minnesota, under construction, they want an erection construction guide that is MnDOT specific. There are a few things in the special provisions and standard details that are a little different than might be generically used around the country. So they want a MnDOT specific construction guide. Another example would be, in addition to the performance information that is provided in IDEA report, Minnesota would also like to know what projects have been completed in Minnesota or in similar areas that have similar climates to Minnesota, just so they've got more comfort level with using that system. Another example of what the agency is requiring, because they have perhaps different leveling pad requirements than are typically used across the country, they want to make sure the submitter is aware of that. So they're saying we want a detailed design drawing of the leveling pad. All of these items are not really aren't an additional burden on the wall system supplier. They're all items that would be required to prepare a set of plans and specifications for any projects they may sell within the state. So that's just an example of what we find from one DOT. And again, by the end of the year, we'll see what an additional 15 DOTs have for requirements. So that is a walkthrough of what the IDEA program is, where we're at, how we anticipate we'll be expanding that. So in summary, the IDEA program is up and running. The reports, the applications, DOT requirements, et cetera, are readily available at the Geo-Institute website. And again, the reports are at no charge. We've seen that we have had the goal, the objective to improve the timing in reporting versus the prior processes. And now that we've been up and running for a year and a half, I think we see that clearly is occurring, that these reviews are occurring in a more timely manner. The reports are more user-friendly, they're more comprehensive than the prior processes. And again, what this is going to is innovation within our profession. It's providing time and cost savings to users, to agencies, and to the earth retention system suppliers. And with that rundown, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Alzamora to start the question and answer period.
Okay. So I'm Daniel Alzamora. I'm one of the senior geotechnical engineers at the Federal Highway Administration Resource Center. I am located in Denver, Colorado. I'm guessing everybody else, because this, as questions come in, I will pass them on to other speakers if I can't answer them, but I'll try. I wanted to say one more thing before we get started, just from my perspective, just one quick point that I'd like to mention about the IDEA program and how I see it. The idea, I think of IDEA as a communication tools between the private sector and the public sector. It's a way for us to communicate by having this independent, unbiased, consistent evaluation of the great research that is done in the private sector in developing and innovating earth-retaining structures and other applications as well. We in the public sector, state DOTs, federal highways, have a difficult time considering, reviewing, evaluating, adopting new things because we usually don't have enough staff, may not have the technical expertise to evaluate these things. There's many reasons that come into play why we don't have the ability to keep up with these things. So all of this innovation and all of this effort that is done in the private sector is unused and untapped. I think hopefully this process allows that communication to take place and gives us all a way to have this interaction and progress in this technology. Just a couple other things. One more thing. I just wanted to remind everybody that so this is our first webinar that kind of introduces the IDEA protocol to everybody. Our second webinar is going to go over a couple of examples, as Jim mentioned, that will hopefully give everybody a little bit more detail of what is evaluated, how are things looked at, what are the types of information that's submitted by the suppliers to be evaluated and considered, and how those things are considered in the evaluation, and then how are those reports developed. So I think that will help everybody get a better feel of what is being done. In addition to that, I wanted to, the third webinar, I wanted to talk about what is our view or vision of how these reports or evaluations and how they can be implemented and adopted by state DOTs for consideration in their approved products list and so on. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that, and I'll get right to the questions. One question that's come in, and I think probably Jim would probably be the best person to answer, which has to do with the cost differences of the types of submittals that are are proposed. For instance, if there's a high-tech evaluation already and there is an update to that system, or if a particular system has already been reviewed and there's a change in a component or design methodology, what are the costs and time considerations for those evaluations?
Thanks, Daniel. So for updates from existing high-tech evaluations, the Keystone evaluation that we did was in fact an update where they made one modification to their system, and that was the fee for that was $10,000. We envision that all these updates, whether it's a change in a component or just an update from a high-tech evaluation that's 10 years old to have a current evaluation, that they are going to be in that $10,000 range. If there's an innovation to a system that requires us to do a deeper dive, more work, then that evaluation would probably be more than the $10,000, but less than the $36,000 that is for a new evaluation. So it'll be somewhere in between, but basically for updates, it should be in the $10,000 range.
Thank you, Jim. I have maybe just a follow-up question to that, just for information for the participants in this webinar. So our vision for the managing these updates or maintaining these evaluations current, because that's one of the things that we've discussed in the previous presentations, is that the high-tech evaluations may be now 10 years old, 20 years old in some cases. What is the frequency of the maintenance protocols for IDEA?
Silas could probably answer that also, but it's 5 years. So right now, any evaluation is, we'll say it's good for a 5-year period. So we're looking for all evaluations to be updated as time marches on.
Yeah, I'll add, Daniel, that we have an oversight committee that was established as part of this protocol, that the Geo-Institute has essentially developed a technical committee to not only develop a charter, but review that charter on a regular basis. And so if we find that the initial thought that Federal Highways had of a 5-year update schedule is either too short, too long, or just needs to be looked at, that's one of those things that's handled through this presence of an oversight committee that periodically just reviews these things. But 5 years is the current review cycle.
Thanks, Alice. Thank you, Jim. And these updates, these 5-year intervals, I envision that if there are, there potentially is no changes to those systems, and that might just be a quick update letter saying, or letter to the file saying that there's no changes currently, and that would be what would keep it consistent, keep it current. Any thoughts on that?
You were breaking up a little bit, Daniel. It was a hard time. For those 5-year updates, if it's just they submit a simple nothing's changed, then the fee for that will probably be adjusted accordingly. We haven't done any of those yet, so we really haven't established that fee.
So that answers that other question there. Okay, those are the questions that we've had so far.
Did we answer how much time?
I think you're crackling up, Silas. You're or something. How much time?
So timeline for evaluations, I'll say that our goal for a new evaluation is 3 months of evaluation time. Interspersed in that will be response times from the vendor, right? So that'll control to some extent the total time. For updates like the Keystone update, that evaluation occurred, I believe, in less than a month. But we're going to say for those evaluations, we're shooting for 6 weeks to 2 months, right? And then when we do an update for a system that's 5 years old, that should be, we haven't done those, but it should be very quick. It should be less than a month, certainly, I would think, right? I think those are the timelines that I have in my mind for the moment. Am I missing any?
Those are the ones that I foresee so far. I mean, I think as we run through all of the possibilities, we'll learn that we haven't captured everything, and we'll adapt. But I think you've covered everything that we've foreseen so far. Those are all the questions that we've had so far. So I think we're almost at about an hour for this webinar. I don't know, Jeff, do you want to?
There are a couple more coming in. Daniel,
oh, good.
We'll take.
Those
Component
questions coming.
changes, and how long would that take? So those are what we were just talking about, right? So about six to 8 weeks is what we envision those to be. AASHTO or GC 11 govern. I'm not sure what that.
So I think that question, Daniel, is whether or not which would govern, GEC 11, FHWA, or AASHTO. And I think the better answer to that question, or the better question to ask and answer for the committee would be, how are we governing? And the whole point here is that when we were thinking this out back in the early 2010s, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of was that if an innovation came in, it had a way to be evaluated, considering the idea that some innovations may be outside of the bounds of what FHWA and AASHTO currently govern. And so a technical evaluation will be rooted in obviously theory that we have and empirical knowledge that we have, but I think governing is sort of a broader, more difficult question to handle when things come in that are outside of the bounds of what FHWA and AASHTO have written to at the moment.
This is Ryan. I guess I would just add that generally the systems will come in following AASHTO, but they're not required to. They can take exceptions, or they can define something else, and that's up to the system supplier, and that would be contained within the idea summary report and within the submittal that they are taking an exception to AASHTO, or there's systems out there that aren't covered by AASHTO. So here's, detailed the design procedures that are being utilized. So there are really no restrictions, but what we are doing is making sure that we are clear and transparent in these reports, so the end users, if they're an agency and they need to use AASHTO, or they need to know when they're not using AASHTO, that it's clear to them.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, Ryan, I think the way the committee is looking at this is that if we do have something that's outside of what AASHTO or FHWA would currently govern, then part of what an evaluation report would do was to tell us how to actually use the system, right?
Yes.
And one thing I would add is the idea, like was mentioned before, is trying to look at innovations, right? And definition of innovation is that it's not in AASHTO or in GEC 11, right? So this is a process, like I was saying earlier, that allows us to have an independent evaluation of these of these innovations that are being done that are currently not in AASHTO or in GEC 11, so that we can take a look at them, try them out if we think that they're reasonable, and evaluate their performance over time. But without having something like this, it's much more difficult to evaluate all of this research that's being done and all of this work that is done out there. So, so as Ryan said, it doesn't have to be an AASHTO or GEC 11. This is an opportunity to try things and be able to communicate this information to the public sector so that we can consider it. I muted myself. Is there a process in place if a system needs to be removed from IDEA? How will you notify the participant? Imagine, Jim, something that might be for you. We haven't thought of that, I don't think.
We have not contemplated having to remove a system.
Actually, I think we have considered it in a roundabout way. And the whole point of having systems come back in for this maintenance structure is specifically for that, to make sure that changes are still something that fits within what it is a technical evaluation would lead a state to either approve or no longer approve.
These maintenance updates, I think, are a really good way for an owner or a state DOT to just touch base with these evaluations at certain times, just make sure that what they're getting in the field is consistent with what has been evaluated. And I think this will provide that maintenance of these evaluations to give the owners and the agencies out there more confidence that what they're accepting or approving will be consistent with what they're getting in the field. I don't see any others. I think pass it on to Jeff, but if there's any other questions, again, I think this webinar and the other two will be recorded or have been recorded, and our contact information is available. Feel free to contact us with additional questions later on, and we'll be happy to respond. Jeff?
Yes, so want to first and foremost thank the participants. Appreciate your attention and thank you for your questions. I do want to thank Brian, Daniel, Jim, Silas, and we were supported by Geo-Institute staff, Brian Keeler and Aaron Harover. So thank you all. Next tutorials are one on September 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then the third one is on October 7, 2 p.m. Eastern. As Daniel mentioned, this presentation was recorded, archived on the YouTube channel for you to download. And when you go to that YouTube channel, please, if you need any further information on IDEA evaluations, you can certainly contact me. I will get that question to the right person so we can have you have a response for you. And with that, this concludes the presentation. Thank you. Stay safe. See you on the 17th of September.